Well, Daniel, I want to thank you for taking time out to talk to us today about your new short film, which seems to be leading to a bigger project, which I'm sure we'll get to in a little bit, called Gale, Stay Away from Oz. I got a chance to watch it, and let me tell you, I dug it. I dug it quite a bit.
Thank
Um, I always found the story of Wizard of Oz interesting. But you're putting an interesting kind of a new modern spin. Could you tell my listeners a little bit about what Gale is about in your words?
Sure. So Gale is taking the Wizard of Oz, but looking for me, it started with the kind of idea of what would happen to Dorothy later on in life. Like she's gone through so much. We kind of presented with the idea of maybe Oz isn't even real. Maybe it's all in her mind, and going through something that traumatic and having been exposed to all of those kind of shock therapies and all the crazy things she's been exposed to. Like, what would happen to Dorothy as an older woman? And I really wanted to explore the heritage of that being passed down through bloodline and trying to really look at the darker side of the Wizard of Oz as well. Like, looking at the source material, it's already quite dark, but I was very intrigued with, okay, let's really kind of play with this story. I would love to kind of revisit the story, but in a modern, dark-ish way, without it feeling cheap as well. Do you know what I mean? So I really wanted to kind of hone in on that kind of psychological aspect of it. So yeah, so it's the Wizard of Oz in 23, but a little bit darker.
Yeah, it is from dark material. I mean, I'm a child of the 80s, so I remember Return to Oz when it came out,
Yeah.
and that was the thing of nightmares. I don't know if you've seen it at all, but
Yeah, listen, that still plays in my head. Like it's created like the Wheelers back in
yeah.
back like I was born in the 80s as well. So like the Wheelers back in the day. Mm-mm, mm-mm.
there, there was some creepy stuff back then, and so yeah, it's great that you're giving kind of this modern exploration because you always wonder. I mean, we get that with like horror films too. What happened to the final girl, or whatever happened to the survivor after they went through all this? And that's what you have here now. The version I saw, Gale, Stay Away from Oz, is a short. But this seems to be part of a bigger project. Is it meant to be like a concept short for a feature, or
Exactly that, yeah. So the short is literally exactly as you described.
Mhm.
It's supposed to set the world up for the feature film. So the idea with the short is to introduce you to the characters, introduce you to the setup essentially, and
Mhm.
where the short finishes is very close to where the feature would be starting.
That's fantastic. Yeah. While watching the short, I almost had a little bit of Sandman vibe from the Netflix show.
Oh,
It,
okay.
it it was feeling kind of like that dark yet playful, yet there's a lot of stuff under the surface, and I was really digging that. Now Emily Gale is played by Chloe Crump. Did it take you a little bit to find your Emily Gale?
Yeah, so we went through a bit of a casting process in the beginning of just trying to find somebody that not only has got the obvious talent to kind of pull the role off, but just had that kind of vibe that could connect, because a lot of the story that we're trying to tell initially, there's so much under the surface,
Mhm.
because we're trying to create something that in many instances isn't actually spoken.
Sure.
So I was really trying to I was very kind of interested in finding someone who can convey a lot without saying much. And Chloe is just like a super talent, super talent. So we're so lucky that we found her, and she's so cool to work with. And yeah, I'm just really excited to kind of work with her on a larger scale.
Yeah, she had a lot of great screen presence too with this. I was pulling for her right away. Uh, you kind of connect with her right away, and I think that's comes through because of her performance. And then Dorothy Gale is played by Karen Swan.
Mhm.
Uh, did it take a little bit to find your Dorothy too?
No, that was very easy. So I
Mhm.
already knew from the get-go that I wanted to work with Karen. So I've seen Karen in a few productions locally, and I was just like, yeah, that's definitely Dorothy, and she's amazing. She's great to work with.
So what kind of balance do you come in though? Because let's face it, some people will look at it as you're dabbling into a classic, you're changing a classic. So, how big of a challenge and what kind of challenges did you run into to give respect to the source material, but at the same time, give it your identity to it.
Yeah, I mean, no matter what you do, that's always going to be the hardest part of any project when you're dealing with, something that's already beloved. I mean, for me personally, a lot of it is down to the respect factor. Like it's a film that I absolutely love. It's material that I absolutely love, and I'm talking from the books before
Sure,
before we come
sure.
to film territory. So this is coming from a place of admiration, but at the same time, I understand that people do hold on dearly dearly to the things that they kind of bonded with as a child. And to be fair, I was that person too.
Mhm.
I used to be that person where I was like, don't mess up a classic, leave it alone, leave it alone. But as you get older,
Mhm.
for me anyway, I started to realize that, do you know what? It doesn't matter what I do or what anybody else does. The
Mhm.
Wizard of Oz is always going to be the Wizard of Oz. That I can't change that. I can't
Mhm.
take anything away from that. All I can do is create the stories and tell the stories that I want to tell, and explore. And I mean, I just still want to stay in that world. I want to explore it. The film had such a massive impact on me. I don't want it to stop, and I want to kind of tell it in a way that I wish I could view these movies, because I love all sorts of films, but I don't want to make a cheap
Sure.
cash
Mhm.
grab. I don't want to do a cheapy jump scare for 90 minutes. I wanted to do something that was quite psychological,
Mhm.
and was quite deep, and has references to the original books. So it was very difficult knowing that you are gonna have a mixed bag of
Sure.
emotions when people are watching the films. You kind of have to get out your own way and accept that,
Sure.
hey, listen, you got to do what you got to do, and it is what it is.
You tell your story. That's what I always tell people, like, if they come out with a remake or something and someone really feels strongly about it, like the Ghostbusters 2016 when it came out, people
Hmm.
were just, "Oh, you're messing with the classic or whatnot." I'm like, "It didn't go on your shelf and change the movie, did it?" You still got the original. And
Yeah.
same thing here with Gale. You can tell your story from a different perspective, give it a new spin, a modern telling, see what happens afterwards, which I'm fascinated on. You hooked me with curiosity for sure of where things are going to go. And you're not messing. I mean, it's not changing the classic. You haven't gone and rewritten all the copies of Wizard of Oz.
Exactly. It's exactly that. It's a case of, like you said, you just have to tell your story, and at the same time, I still remain respectful.
Sure.
Not just out of respect for respect purposes and respect's sake,
Mhm.
but more so because I'm actually in love with the source material. Like I love reading the stories and things that haven't been told and explored. Yet, so for me to kind of jump into that world, I'm just like, this is fascinating. This is just a film that I want to see. I'm just making a film that I want to see,
Sure.
essentially. Like, I'm making it for me. Do you know what I mean? If other people love it, amazing. That'd be great. Do you know what I'm saying? So yeah,
Mm.
yeah.
But it's something you can watch. You're like, whatever. Everyone else, if they like it, great. If not, I want to watch this film. So,
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, the reception to it so far,
Mhm.
again, it's not out in the world yet, but the reception to it so far, it has been amazing. It's been
Mhm.
amazing. It is by people that are looking at reviewing it, critiquing it. It's been absolutely amazing. So I'm hoping that transcends to the rest of the world.
What caught me not only was the mood and the atmosphere that you set with it, giving it that darker tone. It made me want to see Oz. You really made me want to see your Oz. I was like, are we gonna see this? But not really. That's coming later because I saw the trailer on IMDb too, the concept trailer that you had, and
Yeah.
it looks phenomenal. And that's what caught me too, was for a project like this, the production value of this is looks phenomenal. Did you get a lot of support to help up the production value? Because it all looks great, from the settings to the makeup to music, everything about it really has a high production value.
No, I appreciate that. I think a lot of that came from having really good friends who are really talented as well, that can help in the makeup department and
Sure.
effects department. And um it, but again, I think it's from years and years and years and years of making films on next to no budget,
Sure.
allows you to kind of like, okay, I can take this amount of money and make it look like it's
Mhm.
4 times the amount. Like I'm good at doing that because I come from having no money. Do you know what I mean? So being able to make something look like it costs more than it did is quite easy. And again, just having resources to amazing, talented people that have supported me the whole way through, and working for like ridiculously reduced rates has been amazing.
Yeah, that's I think sometimes the bigger the budget of the film, it actually hurts the film because you lose that ingenuity of it and that creativeness because you're like, "Oh, well, we could just spend more money on
Yeah,
it."
very true. And it's tempting, isn't it? It's really tempting. But no, I do, and that's why with try not to do any spoilers too much, but that's why with the film that you'll be seeing, we haven't tried to do us
Right.
badly. Do you know what I mean? Like it's a case of know the limits and be respectful of an audience and don't try and just kind of cash grab. Like it's very much a case of when we get to this place, it has to be done properly because I've got it so clear in my mind. It's a world, it's a complete world that needs to be built. So yeah, we have to do things properly.
Well, it definitely, like I said, the just the way this film ended, because it's I went into it kind of cold and just watching it, I'm like, okay. And as I watched the runtime, I'm like, is this gonna be? And then it ends with to be continued, and I'm like, oh man, because you just get to the one part, the cliffhanger ending, you get with the therapist and all of that. And I just loved that buildup and that you put in here. And yeah, you worked within your limits, but it was very effective. And I appreciate that quite a bit. And so what is it about Wizard of Oz that caught you, do you think, that made you fall in love with it?
I think it's a mixture between, like I said, being absolutely freaked out by the Return to Oz, but also just how much source material there is that
Mhm,
reads it almost like this mystical, forgotten book.
mhm,
Obviously, there's quite a few books, but it just feels very, I don't know, it just feels like when you're reading it, it's an absolute minefield of a world that just hasn't been explored. And
mhm.
I think for any kind of creative, especially filmmakers, you can't help but imagine what that would actually look like in a tangible world. So for me, it was too tempting not to touch.
Sure. Sure, yeah, everybody associates the movie, but and I think people forget they're based off of a book
Yeah,
books. So, kind of like Alice in Wonderland as well. People I think of the movies more than the books, which that as well is another story that is just it's kind of out there.
yeah, that is true.
Uh, so with Gale and the production that you had in here, especially for this concept trailer, was there an urge to show too much sometimes with it? Did you have to hold off a little bit?
Oh, the temptation was there because there's so, like, as you know, there's so much that we could have put in there, and more Easter eggs over here and more Easter eggs over there. But again, I wanted to tell a very mature story. I wanted to tell
Mm,
something that a story that felt like it knew itself. Do you know what I
sure.
mean? And I was making this off the basis and the faith that we will be doing the feature film where we can jump into all of that magic essentially. So I wanted to make sure that the story that we were telling was very deliberate, and the things that we were showing were very purposeful. And there are a few Easter eggs and there are a few
There are,
and,
yeah.
and there's things that are hidden so deep. I feel like unless they're kind of like mentioned, I don't know if I'm gonna pick them up, but there's hints to even characters that may show up. Like
Hmm.
there's like, if you listen to dialogue very carefully, there's some clues in certain people that may or may or not show up in in a feature version. So there's stuff there. There's layers. There's some layers. There's some layers.
And this, folks, there are a few creatures in here. It's not devoid of creatures. I there's one in particular. It was the bedroom scene. I'm not going to spoil it, but there's a creature that shows up,
Mm.
and I think you made it more frightening. And they were frightening in the original film, but you made it even more frightening here by not showing all of it. How much time did it take to put those together? Because you've got that, and you've got the wheelie the monster, and how long did it put those take to put those together?
Listen, we were working at a crazy schedule already. So for the scene that you're talking about, in the bedroom, that was quite a bit of makeup. That was while we were doing other stuff. We just left those guys doing that for like half a day. The Wheelers, which is apparent from the trailer, that we partnered with a local university because we
Mhm.
didn't realize how hard it was to actually make wheels that people can wheel on all fours,
Sure.
to the point where we even made some changes, some adjustments throughout the process, but it was really difficult. So we had to literally get an engineering team in that were happy to do it at the university, who were like, okay, cool. So we had our actor go down there and test it out and make a few modifications and stuff. So yeah, and then by the time we got to set and it was safe enough
Yeah.
to actually do, we hardly had time to kind of shoot it anyway. So it was yeah, it was a tight one.
Well, engineers too. You come up with something. Hey, could you come up with something like this? I'm sure they'll jump at the chance. It's like, oh
Yeah,
hey, yeah,
yeah, yeah,
put
exactly.
put away the boring designs. Let's look at this.
Exactly. I get to do that every day. Yeah, I mean, it's an
That's
exciting
right.
task.
So what made you want to do this crazy business of filmmaking, man?
I think it's from as far back as I can remember. It's just about having a voice. You know what I mean? Like I've always, traditionally been a shy kid.
Sure.
I mean, I'm not the person to talk. I'd much prefer to be in the back, in a dark corner somewhere, just ignored. But you like everyone, you want to have a voice. You want to have your say in the world, and through film is a way where I kind of got to do that. And you know what I mean? So even with this Gale project, as much as yeah, I am retelling the story, I am inserting a bit of myself into there.
Mhm.
Like with Emily, she's on a journey where she's trying to discover who she really is, like who
Right.
did her lineage, or like where did she come from, like what's going on. And I feel like that about myself in life. Like, what the hell's going on? Like, where am I going? Like, there's a clue over there, there's a sign over there, and I'm moving closer and closer, but I don't know what I'm moving to, which is akin to the journey that Emily's on as well. So yeah, so making is essentially just an extension of my voice, of being able to have something to say.
And I think that's a theme people can relate to. I think even some of us who are older, like myself, are still kind of looking for that actual place to where if you actually fit in that peg, and you're always, but you're always evolving too. I've seen the variety of projects that you have listed here that you've worked on over the past. You seem as well to always be branching out into different things creatively. Are you always looking for something a little different to do for yourself?
Yeah, and I think it just goes back to that exploration thing. It's a case of um, you get one life to live,
Sure.
and there's only so much that you can do. Do you know what I mean? Like you may have a few professions, but it's limited. But with filmmaking, excuse me, it gives me a chance to explore so many different worlds. So I will be on a project that is completely different from the last project that I did. And for me, it allows me to immerse myself into that world so much. It feels like I've gone through a whole lifetime. Like anyone that's made a film knows that by the time you come out of a film, you feel like you've had a whole lifetime there. You know? Having so many different experiences, it just creates this wealth, this bank of memories that for me just is really fulfilling, and allows me to feel like I'm living 100 lives.
And it allows you to build up, right? You build and learn as you go doing different things rather than sticking to one genre. You can maybe go, "Oh, we could do it that way.
Oh,
We could tell it that way."
100%. And it also just, I mean, from a basic point of view, allows me to just figure out what do I love the most. Do you know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like it's very easy to kind of stick in one lane, but again, I feel like maybe I've never grown up properly because
Mm.
I'm just like I just want to just explore and try everything. Like, oh, that's nice. Oh, that feels good. Like, which one fits? Which one's gonna stick? I don't know. Let's see. I just like telling stories. I just like telling stories.
And that's great. You've got a great story here with Gale. One question I always like to ask is, what was one scene, to not spoil too much, what was one scene that you had that you thought was going to be really hard? Like this man, this is just going to be tough. And it just ended up coming off like easy, like a breeze. Like, wow, that we nailed that first time around.
That would definitely have to be with Karen, playing Dorothy when she's doing the whole "stay away from us" part, because it's so iconic to from the concept that I had to the actual delivery in the film that I've done now, and trying to match the original performance versus the performance in my head, and knowing how much it's I'm asking someone to push themselves.
Mm.
I felt like this is going to be quite complicated, and maybe we, give Karen a rest here.
Right.
We'll go in again from this angle. But the minute that we rolled on it, I feel like we could have gone with the first take, and we were good to go. Like she was amazing. It was so easy. She just I don't know if she was practicing at home every day in the mirror. Like I don't know what she was doing, but she absolutely nailed it.
Yeah, yeah, she did, and that was actually a rather disturbing scene. I'm like, you feel it for Dorothy because you have this image of Dorothy in your head from the films, from the original. I got the laser disc back
I
here.
see, I see, I see.
You have that image, and the final image you got was kind of like upbeat, like, oh, Uncle, Auntie, hey,
Mhm.
and now the way where you see her now, it's like it's you feel for her.
Yeah.
Even though it's being played by a new actress, you still feel that this is the same character that you saw at the end of the movie, I think, or in the books.
Yeah, she's
Uh,
she's had a hard life. She's had a hard life. This is the result. This is the result of a lot of trauma, childhood trauma. Like, it's a tricky.
well, I mean, if you think about what Dorothy went through in Oz in the original story, I mean, the books was even worse, but even in the movie, it's like, you see some people put out the memes like, yeah, Dorothy was the real killer, the Oz. There's been papers about how Dorothy's the real villain in Oz.
Just dropping houses on people, like it's crazy. Like
Dropping, yeah.
yeah, she's gone through. I mean, and that was a catalyst for the story as well. It's a
Mhm.
case of what would a real person be like years later down the line after going through so much, not just what's happened in Oz, but outside of Oz, where she's being treated as if it's some delusional factor and there's an illness there. So it's not like that would stop at the end of the film. Like that would have been carrying on through her early adulthood and constantly berated with, is it real? Am I crazy? Like here, well, look at Gale, watch Gale, and you'll figure out where she ended up.
Yeah, and makes you wonder, did Dorothy really want to go back? Did she miss Oz? Because even though she went through a lot of bad stuff, she also had her friends, her band of merry killers.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, that's one angle to look at it. But again, I mean, there's so many things in the film. Like for example, in the film, there is a mirror,
mhm,
which doesn't really get a full explanation for a very specific and purposeful reason. And when we start telling a larger story, there's such a very interesting twist on Dorothy's relationship with us from her childhood all the way up until where she is now, and the revelations and the things that she's learned and the relationship that she's built within ours and the world that she's in right now. It's very there's a lot of depth in there, and I can't wait to kind of explore that and show what that actually means as well.
Now, are you a fan at all of some of the other Oz, say, films? Like there was the Great and Powerful Oz that came out a while ago. What was your take on that? Because there were some mixed feelings amongst fans of that film, exploring, the wizard arriving at Oz.
Yeah. So I'm probably the worst person to ask because I'm just entertained by everything. I
Sure.
appreciate every angle of a story.
Mhm.
Don't get me wrong, if it's an obvious exploitation and I
Right.
I feel like the story wasn't at the forefront of the process, then I'm probably going to be not too receptive to it. But when you do have versions like that and it can, completely different spin, I'm all for it. I'm just like, oh, let me see this take and let me. So I was okay, like it was entertaining. But again, I'm very easily entertained because
Mhm.
film for me is my kind of switch off. It's my escapism. It's where I I try not to think too much. I'm not here trying to critique films as much as many other professionals do. I just switch off and I just take it in and yeah, it's okay. Yeah, it's great. Not for me. That's me how I kind of take it. So I don't mind when I'm creating myself. Like when I came to do Gale, I'm not even thinking about the other remakes and stuff. I'm just literally in my world of this is just a story that I wanted. This is how I would love to see us, where it's not a cheesy horror,
Mhm.
even though it's classed as horror, but it's more of a we're in a dark place. Like it's about witches, it's about witchcraft. It's do you know what I mean? Like there's a lot of stuff going on.
Now, are you a horror fan as well?
Yeah, absolute
Yeah.
massive horror fan.
All right, all right. So I gotta ask, what's one of your favorite horror?
Um, I would say I'd probably say I might get slated for it, but the original Poltergeist from back in the day
Oh, nice. Yeah.
scared
Hmm.
the hell out of me. It was just there's just something about it. There's just something about just everything is just creepy. It's just creepy as hell.
I love the original Poltergeist. The remake, not so much. It almost felt a little bit like it was being a little bit mean spirited towards the original in a
Mm,
few spots. But yeah, the original Poltergeist, it was definitely creepy.
yeah.
And even though what I loved about the original Poltergeist, was they worked in humor along with the horror. You know,
Yeah, it works really well.
and it works really well. Like the scene, when the investigators show up, and how do you know you've got poltergeist? And they're just like, here, check this chair out, like everyday type of thing at this point.
That is true. It's true, and it just felt so natural to watch. Do you know what I mean? So by the time that you get into the darker stuff, it's you feel like you're a little bit more immersed into it. So it was really nice, really
Yeah, that
nice.
the clown still to this day is one of the most frightening.
On the chair, like I couldn't like at bedtime. You have to make if I had a chair in my room, like there could be nothing on it. That was horrible, absolutely horrible. And the guy, what was he singing? God is in his holy temple.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
that guy there freaked me out. Absolutely freaked me out. That was a lot.
It was so effective, that horror film, and iconic in many ways. And regardless of the behind the scenes drama of who directed it, Toby Hooper, was it
Yeah.
Spielberg? Who cares? It's a fun movie. That's what I like about it. Any newer horror films that caught you offhand?
I mean, I'm a big fan of the Conjuring
Mm,
universe.
hmm.
I really like the Conjuring universe. What else has come out recently? There's still a few that I need to check out. Like, is it Talk to Me? Is that the
Yeah,
new one?
Talk to Me. That's the one with the hand. Yeah, with
Yeah,
the hand statue.
I've still not watched that as well. So I need to give that a watch.
That one's solid. That one I enjoyed. I know a lot of people who really enjoyed it. I dug it, but I know some people who really got into it. And then if you like The Conjuring, I will say The Nun 2 was far better than The Nun. So
Oh,
if you,
really?
yeah,
Okay. Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
The Nun 2 really, they stepped it up. It was far better than the first one.
We'll give that a watch.
So you definitely should check that out. So now this Gale is playing on a newer horror app called Chilling, correct? How did
Correct.
you get involved with them?
So I mean, chilling is a beautiful relationship that I'm so glad has happened and kind of came about organically. I think once I had that concept trailer out and it went viral, we were being contacted by different production companies on a daily basis. We were
Mhm.
contacted, and I'm talking about some really big studios that were making offers and making deals to do certain things that for me didn't feel very genuine and
Mhm.
didn't feel like it was the route that I wanted to go down. Because for me, yeah, I understand it's a business, but at the same time, integrity is a massive
Right.
part
Right. Yeah.
of my day-to-day life. So when I made connections with Chilling,
Mhm.
and I spoke to those guys and learned about their journey. It just sounded like there were so many parallels. So at the time, they were focusing on stories on their app, and I think they're like the number one app in the world for like horror
Mhm.
stories. And they said that they were transitioning into film, and they would love for Gale to be one of the first things that they have on their platform, and with the potential of expanding it into a feature film and it's speaking with them and getting to know them and just understanding that their morals and their integrity was in the same place as me.
Sure.
It just
Mhm.
felt like, okay, this is where I want to be. This is a relationship that I want to pursue because as they're growing, I'm growing, and it just felt like it would be a good kind of partnership to kind of have, and I don't regret it for a second.
Well, I'm hoping it takes off. If as big as that app is, everybody can see Gale, which is coming out September 18th on the Chilling app. So, what's next for you? Are you doing in the pre-production of Gale? Can you give a little hint of what's coming up next for Daniel?
I am getting ready. I'm getting ready for it. Like that. That's something that I would absolutely love to kind of go all in on. So I'm just kind of like
Sure.
really perfecting the
Mhm.
story of where I'd like to kind of take it. Alongside the other horror ideas that I've now just got the bug for. So there's a few things in the pipeline. So we'll see which one comes to development first.
Fantastic, sir. And where can they catch you or keep up with you on what you're doing?
So I mean I've got a website which is danielalexanderfilms.com, but I
Okay.
use Instagram a lot, which is Daniel Alexander Films.
Fantastic. Well, I'll put links for the podcast for this interview down in the body of the message for that as well, sir. And yeah, man, this has been fun to talk to. I hope you can get that feature because you've got a fan already. I'm hooked to this
Thanks.
world. I'm hooked to this world. I want to see what happens with the therapist. I want to see what happens in Oz. I want to see Gale. You know, I'm like sitting there going, "Oh man, it ends on this cliffhanger," and I'm just like, I gotta see more of these characters. So I'm hoping this works out for you. And when it does and the feature comes out, Ned, I'd love to talk to you again, sir, and
100%. Be a
and
pleasure.
get your experience for that. So I thank you very much for this. So folks, check it out. Get the Chilling app and check out Gale. You can check out the trailer on IMDb. It's a wonderful trailer. It's the Scarecrow shot alone. The Scarecrow shot alone is tells you all you need to know about what type of film you're in for. So thank you folks and make sure you check it out.